Good evening, everyone. Everyone okay? A bit warm out, isn't it? We'll try and get as much air through the building as we can. Thank you so much for coming here tonight. Obviously, my name is Clyde, I'm the pastor here at Victory Church. And really, this is Public Child Protection Wales' event. But as a church, we're really passionate about this issue. And recently, we've had our own events around this issue because it's very scary, isn't it? Yeah. For children growing up now and for parents as well who have got kids in school. And it's really important that we're informed. So I want to just thank Kim and the team for doing such an amazing job. Yeah, let's give them a little bit. And what I would encourage you to do tonight is tell people, because the more people that know about these issues, I've found that as I've been telling people about this, speaking about this issue, even people that disagree on how it should be worked out, they don't know the fullness often. And knowledge is power. So we're going to hear a lot of knowledge tonight from Kim. So thank you, Kim. And welcome to the rest of the team. Adele, Lucia. Yeah, so wherever you are, welcome, guys, and I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you all for coming. Those who don't know me, I'm Kim, and I'm Chair of Public Child Protection Wales. Public Child Protection Wales is an organisation set up for you guys, the parents. We set up this organisation off the back of our sex education campaign. We've been campaigning against mandatory sex education, but we discovered there was lots of failings and shortfalls in our safeguarding provisions and training. So we had no choice but to set up the organisation. Our main fight at this moment in time is against the RSE, Relationship and Sexuality Education. It feels strange saying that, because I'm a criminologist who specialises in child sex abuse. I support sex education, and I promote children's rights. So why am I standing here, fighting against this? Because this education is not right. All is not as it seems. So today I'm going to be doing a presentation, and we're going to be looking at some aspects of this. We're going to be discussing, first of all, something really important, is the legislation. This is important because what you'll find is your schools haven't even looked at this, and this is what's really tying us all up. We look at relationship and sexuality education as the government wants you to see and what you to believe. But then we'll be looking at comprehensive sexuality education. That is a global sexuality education. And that's the contract our government signed. We will then look at some lesson content from around the UK. This is a global sex education. We can show you global lesson content. But we need to keep this as close to home as possible so everyone understands and it keeps it real, okay? We can see what's going on around us. Then we'll be taking a little break, and the second half gets quite dark. So after the break, if some people have been affected by abuse or anything like that, you can't handle these issues, please do not come in for the second half until 15 minutes later, because the stuff I'm going to be showing you, you probably will never ever see in your life ever again. This is as close as what you'll get to actually witnessing these policies in practice, and it's really important. I don't do this often. I usually do this on a one-on-one basis. But I think it's really important we see how these policies play out in the hands of the wrong people and how easily manipulated children are. Then we'll be doing a bit of myth busting. We look at the government response, and we'll finish on a high with the people's response. So the legislation. We have primary and secondary legislation. Secondary legislation does not override primary legislation. They work in unison or they are amendments. What you see here is secondary legislation, the Curriculum and Assessment Wales Act. This is for the whole of the curriculum, not just sex education. What this act does, it mandates 4 subjects for your children: English, relationship and sexuality education, religion, values and ethics, and Welsh. Those are the 4 mandatory subjects our government believe our children need to be confident, happy, healthy individuals. Section 77 of the Act talks about the RSE code. Now we've got RSE guidance and an RSE code. The RSE code is derived from UNESCO. We have information proving that by way of correspondence from Kirsty Williams and also reference throughout our documents. So let's just read this. I want to read section A here. So before issuing and revising the RSE code, the Welsh ministers must consult the persons they think appropriate, in brackets, if any. It's really important, if any. I don't know how many of you have taken part in any consultations regarding this so far, but this tells you they don't have to consult you if they don't deem you're appropriate. It goes on to say, then they lay down before Senedd Cymru a draft of the proposed code, in brackets, or in the case of revisions of the proposed revised code. What that means is the code can change at any time at the hands of the ministers. Nothing you can do about it, there's nothing the schools can do about it, there's nothing the teachers can do about it, it's in the hands of the ministers. So relationship and sexuality education. Why do we need RSE? Well, we're told it safeguards against sex abuse and inappropriate internet content, reproductive health and biology, meaningful relationships and being kind. I don't know about you, but I don't think we need a piece of legislation to be kind, do we? We don't need a piece of legislation to be kind. It's something we learn natural, part of growing up. We've got a picture of a nurse there because we're discussing reproductive health and biology. It's a specialist field. Are the teachers now a gynecologist? Are the teachers going to teach our children the importance of testicles if they twist and things like that? No, they're not, because they simply do not know. And I've got a photo of the police there, because obviously sex abuse is a crime. But the police don't know a lot about sex abuse. There's lots of different forms, there's many explanations, they all overlap and contradict. That's why we've got the sexual crimes team. The sexual crimes team deal with these issues. It's a specialist, complex field. But now we're asking teachers to become a sexual crimes team, a criminologist, or a specialist in this field. And then we have the government. The government are issuing this guidance and these laws. The schools are expected to enforce it. So now we have somebody with a music degree that has to act as a nurse, specialist crimes, and enforce what the government put to them. So those are the reasons why they think we need RSE, and that's the weight of responsibility unfairly placed on our teachers. So this is the RSE code. This is what you're all going to be sent now. This is what published January 2022. Our campaign began July 2020. So we clearly wasn't fighting this, was we? But we are going to fight this in court because this is all the government has left us with. The problem began here. You all would have probably had this document too. This is the RSE draft published February 2019. This is where I became involved. I've been following comprehensive sexuality education since 2013 because of my interest in sexual crimes. So when I discovered that we'd lost our parental opt-out, I found out through Wales Online, I knew what to look for. I'm familiar with it. So I found this document here online, published by the Welsh Government. Page 4 tells us to refer to UNESCO. UNESCO is comprehensive sexuality education. So this document here, the International Technical Guidance on Sexuality Education, is something you will find on Hub. This is a global sex education. This is the document that was referenced in your draft. This is CSE, a rights-based approach. These are just frameworks. So you're being shown these frameworks, there's no lesson content with them, okay? So already we're discussing 3 different things. The legislation, the frameworks, and lesson content are 3 different strands altogether. This document here is beefed up with rights. It reads lovely. Children's rights, exercise their rights, bodily rights, but they've also exercising something called the sexual and reproductive rights. That's what you'll see there on your right. Everyone has sexual and reproductive rights from birth. What these mean is the state can administer medication to a child without your consent. They're allowed to exercise body autonomy. They're allowed to engage in sexual activities because it is their right, as long as it's voluntary and consensual. There's parts of this document here, it starts from age 5 to 8. Like I said, this does read a lot better than the rest of them, okay? But this is just one in a long string of documents. This isn't a new document, this isn't the first, it's one of many. On the inside of this cover, you will see a declaration. It tells you who they're partnered with. They partnered with the World Health Organization, an organization called CSE actually write them, International Planned Parenthood, and more. I've mentioned before this document isn't as harsh as the others, but there are things to look out for. So for example, age 5 to 8. Humans enjoy their bodies and being close to others throughout their life. They understand physical enjoyment and excitement and natural feelings. Showing love through touching and intimacy. People show love by hugging, kissing, and through sexual behaviours. It also talks about good and bad touch. Everyone has a right to decide who touches their body. Again, age 5 to 8. Age 9 to 10, it starts talking about the key features of pregnancy, the signs of pregnancy, how to test for pregnancy, what to do if you're pregnant. Age 5 to 9. If we find ourselves in a situation where we've got children aged 9 to 12 as pregnant, we need to be calling the police. Nothing else and no one else. That should be investigated. It certainly should not be discussed and dealt with in schools. Describe female and male sexual responses, masturbation, advantage and disadvantages of delaying sexual activity. Well, there's no disadvantages to delaying sexual activity, is there? Only advantages. For example, females, they're high risk of STIs. Why? Because their immune systems are low because of periods. Early sexual intercourse in an immature cervix will lead to cervical cancer, but we are being told, a job will deal with that. So on discovering we were part of this global sex education, we did further investigation. On your left here is the sexuality education in Europe and Central Asia. This document is a global document. You'll find it on lots of different websites. It's an overview of 25 countries. So in here, on page 174, there is a study in England. But next to the title and the word England, there's a star. If you go to the left-hand corner of the page, it tells you the studies were in England, but they apply to the whole of the UK. But on page 8 of this document, they boast about the UK being the last in Europe to accept this education. It also tells us all 4 UK governments signed up to this on the 1st of March 2017. It also tells us which document they accepted, which framework they accepted, and that's that one there on the right. Standards for sexuality education in Europe. This document, this framework was accepted by the Department of Health, Department of Education, Children's Ministers and more, okay? How do we know this? Because this document here tells us, okay? We're not making it up, you need to look at these documents on our website. I've told you the pages, you can look and see it for yourself. So this document is shocking. Granted, you will not find it on the Welsh Government website, but it is the framework all 4 UK governments adopted, and it is their definition of sexuality we are promoting. This document starts from birth. Again, it preaches about exercising sexual rights. Sexual rights mean you can engage in consensual, voluntary and exciting sexual activities as long as it feels good, as long as you want it, as long as you consent. So the top of this document here, you can see 0 to 4. That's not page numbers, that's age. You'll see information fed into a child, the skills the child will acquire, and the attitudes the child develops towards that. Now this is the matrix from page 38. There's lots of other sections here, but we've just chosen this little part just to show you the sexuality part. Because we're being told that we're reading this wrong. It's sexuality, not sex. Okay, let's test it. Let's look at sexuality for children aged 0 to 4. Enjoyment and pleasure when touching one's own body. Early childhood masturbation. The fact that enjoyment and physical closeness is a normal part of everyone's life. Tenderness and physical closeness and expression of love and affection. Gain an awareness of gender identity. Talk about unpleasurable feelings in one's own body. Please hold on to these because we're going to be revisiting this later on. Express own needs and wishes and boundaries. For example, in the context of playing doctors. Age 4 to 6. Again, enjoyment and pleasure when touching one's own body. Early childhood masturbation. The meaning and expression of sexuality. Appropriate sexual language. Sexual feelings. Closeness, enjoyment, excitement. Consolidate gender identities. Talk about sexual matters. Use sexual language in a non-offensive way. Age 4 to 6. Here we are again, age 6 to 9. There's more to these, mind. As you go down a bit further as well, there's things like first love, secret love. These are the words that you're using in the documentation, children aged 0 to 4. That's why I urge you all to read this stuff yourself. Once you see, you can never unsee. You know, these things are implanted in your brain. It's a bit more difficult then for people to talk their way out of it. So age 6 to 9. Love, being in love, tenderness, sex in the media, enjoyment and pleasure when touching one's own body, masturbation, stimulation, appropriate sexual language, deal with sex in the media, use sexual language in a non-offensive way, an understanding of acceptable sex, mutually consensual, voluntary, equal, age appropriate, context appropriate and self-respecting. You can see a pattern here. As you come up to the age of 9, again in the UNESCO document as well, they will be discussing intercourse, okay? That is something that we've spotted. It's a bit of a pattern. Here we are, 9 to 12. First sexual experience. Gender orientation. Sexual behaviour of young people. Love, being in love. Pleasure, masturbation, orgasm, difference between gender identity and biological sex, communicate and understand different sexual feelings, talk about sexuality in an appropriate way, make conscious decisions of sexual experiences or not, and it goes on. What I've read to you here is just one section, the sexuality section. It's a 60-page document. I think you need to go and have a look for yourself. It does go on to age 15 as well. But I think we just go that far. Now, as you can see, there's a warning. Why have we issued a warning? We're talking about lesson content. We are very early stages of this comprehensive sexuality education in the UK. It's been in America for a long, long time. The damage being done to those children is untold, irreversible. But here we are, let's just have a look what we've actually got in the UK, shall we? So, what you would have noticed was a lot of talk of early childhood masturbation. That document was published in 2010. The newer versions talk about self-stimulation, so you'll see this terminology from 2018 onwards. We've just been discussing frameworks, okay, guidance. This is the lesson content from United Nations guidance. So this is UNESCO, all right? When you look, you will find things, they have you believe this came from Warwickshire Council. We have a document I'm happy to send to you. It's a review of this in Warwickshire. It tells you it's CSE, it tells you it's from the UNESCO framework. The reason why it's not on our website yet is because we take it into court, but I will gladly give it to you on an individual basis. So let's look at this. This is in 241 schools in England, children aged 6 and under. Let's have a look. There are also rules about touching yourself too. Now lots of people like to tickle or stroke themselves, they might feel nice. They might play with their hair, stroke their skin, or they may even touch their private parts. This is really very normal. However, some people may get cross or say that it is dirty, especially when you touch your own privates. This is really strange and it's really very normal. However, it is not polite to do it when other people are about. It is something we should only do when we're alone, perhaps in the bath or shower, or in bed, a bit like picking your nose. It is certainly not polite to do it in the class when everyone is watching. Some people think that's sexual, some people think it's okay because they know children who put their hands in their trousers. I think it's absolute disgraceful that has even gone into our classrooms. Do you know why? That is a barrier to non-verbal disclosure. If this hits every class in this country, we will never, ever, ever be able to spot a non-verbal disclosure in children. Let me explain. I say there's 4 types of children in the class, but as a nurse pointed out to me, there's actually not, there's 5. But we still go through the same kind of mental checklist. So we've got children who are touching themselves because they do it, okay? They just do it, they found their old boy and they want to play, that's what they do. Some children never ever bother. Some children have a medical condition. Some children are being neglected, they're doing it because it's soothing. Then we have children who are actually being abused. They are reenacting things, they're copying things, okay? They're playing out things that's happening to them in secret. That is what we call a non-verbal disclosure. It's for adults to know about this, to spot this, recognise it and investigate it. We have just programmed every single child in the country from the age of 4 away from a non-verbal disclosure. This lesson content is now a barrier to disclosure. It should be scrapped. It should be scrapped. We shouldn't be discussing anything further than this, but we are. So this one here, this now comes from the Scottish curriculum. And you might think that we go devolved governments and, you know, we do our own education, but our curriculum has been written by Professor Donaldson. He also wrote the Curriculum of Excellence. Kirsty Williams has referenced Scotland's curriculum as well, and there has been plenty of talk about it, plenty. It's failing. The Curriculum of Excellence in Scotland is failing, but our government say it's failing because it hasn't been implemented right. So let's just take a look. This is age 3 to 5. Looks fine. Head, knees, leg, penis, scrotum, testicles and vulva. You will be told the correct terminology safeguards. That isn't entirely true. You can give your children correct terminology if you choose to. Okay? If that's your choice, you can do it. If you want to give your child a pet name for their privates, you can do that too. I don't call her a pet name, I call her a password. That's what it's like for me, it's a password. Why would you give everybody the password to your child's genitalia? You wouldn't do it. You simply wouldn't do it. This is how perpetrators engage in discussion with children, is through discussions with their genitalia. If they can pinpoint parts and they can engage in conversation, that is seen as consent. Don't take my word for it, I will show you a perpetrator's word for it later on. Again, this is also age 3 to 5. One way is that a woman and a man love each other and they have sex. This is a special thing that grown-ups can do. When they have sex, the man's penis goes in the woman's vagina and sperm comes out and goes in to meet the egg inside the woman's body. So this is age 3 to 5. We've already seen a 9-year-old coming home from school, an autistic little boy's come home, he's gone into bed with his mum, and he's tried having to a leg. He's given a sperm for a baby. So this is age 9 to 12. Again, genitals for private parts. If you look, guys, that is not a 9 and 12-year-old bodies. They are adult bodies, adult genitalia. This is what we call desensitizing people. I could do a whole presentation on the policies and desensitization and things like that, but I'm not going to bore you with it. I will do it in podcast. We do rely on victim resistance in this country for safeguarding, and this is a way of getting around the victim resistance. And there we have the female reproductive organs. Well, you can see how many labels are there, you know, just how much detail do these children really need to know at this age. So here we have it again. Now this is age 9 to 12 again. Here we go a little step further. If a man and woman are having sex, they both want to do it, the man can put his penis inside the woman's vagina and gently move his penis in and out. This should feel nice for both people. When people have sex, they might have an orgasm. For a woman, an orgasm is a pleasurable feeling in her body. For a man, if he has an orgasm called ejaculation, white liquid called semen will come out of his hard penis. He will enjoy this feeling. So these lessons are obviously mixed class, they've got boys and girls in them. Every single child in our lesson must take part. You know, there is no option for the children to come out. So as we go into age 12 to 15, where we should be having, you know, really good, robust, healthy sex education, we're actually giving children instructions on how to engage in sexual acts. So we've got oral sex, anal sex. Anal sex is promoted quite a lot throughout the documentation. It is also used as a means of contraception. Adam? So here we are, anal sex. This has come from a video commissioned by the SNP and the NSPCC, and what it's telling you here is how popular anal sex is. This diagram here, then, this is saying how good the sensation is. It's talking about pleasurable feelings and the pleasure points and things like that. Again, this is age 9 to 12. So here we have some screenshots from a video. This video has been removed now from the internet. The link is still in the lesson resources though, so I can send you this PowerPoint straight after. The references are at the back. You will find the lesson content, you know, the lesson plan. At the bottom then you'll find the link to this video, but it has been removed from YouTube now, but it was there for a long time. What this is referring to, this is females. So 40% of women like anal and 30% will swallow. Here on the right hand side again, 40% of women like light bondage, that's what that chicken is. The bottom picture there, those two hot dogs, that is supposed to be threesomes. On the left hand side, this is a government commissioned lesson content again, it's called the Dice Game. You can purchase this from Ann Summers or any sex store, but you just won't get the government logo. Within these instructions, it tells the teacher to hold their nerve. Lesson content telling teachers they need to hold their nerve. So, I did do a little video on this a while back. I was screen recording some of the lesson contents. So what I'll do now, I'll play a video that we made for Facebook a while back, But you'll see these pictures then, how they are displayed to children, the music they use and the enthusiasm. So this will just be a little snippet of what of what we've seen and where we've taken these from.
Actually swallow said load. The portion of women who've been in a threesome is less than 20%. And only 40% of women have tried anal. While the internet is awash in female squirters, only 6% of women say they regularly gush forth. Finally, what about light bondage? Well, only 40% have tried it. Wait, that's actually quite a lot. So there you go.
Types of porn, including but not limited to softcore, hardcore, lesbian, thespian, interracial, facial, alternative, conservative, hentai, far cry, BDSM, NEDM, amateur, mature porn.
In the teacher's defence, the lessons don't start out like that. The videos don't start out like that. It's a couple of minutes in, this kind of stuff kicks off. You know, the teacher's just there in the class. So we can't really blame anyone because they've just taken the lesson content from the government website, the lesson plans, and these are the links that were there. Here as well, we've come across some cases where they've been asking young children to write gay love letters as a way of accepting diversity. This is another classroom thing they use in guidance. This is called the Trans Toolkit. This is from 2019. Section 7.3 is about confidentiality and information sharing. This gives the pupils rights to change their uniform and name, and the teachers have to keep that confident and not share that information with you. There's a new one coming out now, it's just been published, the 2021 Trans Toolkit. That toolkit allows boys to go on female trips, female residential trips, mixed sex toilets, shared cubicles and things like that. That is the new updated version of the Trans Toolkit. And here we have an incident where this has happened. This very Trans Toolkit was used in a school in the Rhondda. This child he had changed his name and uniform, and it took 2 weeks before the parents found out about it. And again, this toolkit is still being widely promoted. They will say it comes from Brighton Council, but, well, if you look at Brighton anyway, it's got the highest rate of children who don't know what gender they are. So that's the kind of thing we do get from this education. Something we've been coming across as well is this drag story hour. So in the top left-hand corner, we have the luscious flow job. Flow job. Flow job was the entertainer in Scotland. The parents went absolutely ballistic when they seen her social media. This is adult entertainment. These are adult entertainers. That's why they got this stuff on their social media. In the middle, we have Natalie. I can can send you Natalie as well. Her full video is on the reference slide. So everything you see here, you've got the link to, okay? Natalie there, that particular video. Why are the children putting those faces like that around her? I'll tell you why. On this video, Natalie's having a mock interview. The guy interviewing Natalie says, "Hey Natalie, what do you say to those kids that look up to you?" Excuse my language. She says, "Those kids that look up to me can suck my dick." Yep. And then the video then goes on to this gentleman here having feces dropped on his face. You can have the link to this. It's all at the end of the presentation. This fine specimen here on the right, this is our drag artist, Ada HD. I'm quite offended because I got ADHD. We call her Ada H Hard-On because she's either very well blessed or she's pleased to see those children. If you look closely there, you will see there is always a big penis pulled right up the front of her clothes, and she's always stood over the 4-year-olds. This is just something that we've been putting up with. We keep getting told what's the difference between this and Widow Twankey? A hell of a lot. So I can't say a lot about these books. All I've been doing is when books of concern come up, I simply purchase them. I don't have time to read them. Lucia knows a lot more about the books than I do. But I do know that this Pop and Ollie collection is something you should look out for. There's also the gender wheel. It's like a rainbow where they're trying to show children you're not, you can be a different gender. We've got those books over there. There's other books called Sex, S-E-X. So yeah, these are books you really need to look out for, okay? They are indoctrinating the children. It's as simple as that. There's no two ways about that. So if it couldn't get any worse, it does get worse. The school sex survey. Has anyone heard about the school sex survey? Just a few, yeah? So this comes under the title of health and well-being, all right? Health and well-being. And this is where Scotland issued a sex survey to all local authorities, and the local authorities issued this to the children. We first heard it was age 9, but the more it's in the media, they keep saying, oh, it was 11-year-olds, then it was 13-year-olds, then it was 15-year-olds, right? We don't quite know what the age was because it changes all the time. But what we do know is the questions were absolutely disgusting. So for example, have you had anal or vaginal sex more than once? Yes, no, prefer not to say. How old were you when you had sex for the first time? 13 years or younger? Statutory rape. Statutory rape age. Why are we even asking these questions? 14 years old, 15 years old, 16 years old, and it goes on. When you first had sex, would you personally say you wanted it to happen earlier, you wanted it to happen at the time, you would rather have had it later, you did not ask yourself that, you prefer not to say? There's over 60 questions in this survey. That's just a few that I screenshot and put them on. I didn't even choose which ones went on, they were just there, I put them on. Oh look, Mr. Drakeford. Survey asks school children as young as 13 when they first had sex. Wonder where this came from. Health and Wellbeing Survey. It was the Health and Wellbeing Survey last July. Did anyone know about this? No, neither did I. So we found the reports, we can't find the survey. As far as we can gather, there was like the one question on sex, so we can get there slowly. The reports we have found were on primary school children, not comp-age children, but I do have to go back and look, because I didn't look thoroughly. So they could be there, but the ones that jumped out on me was primary age reports, which in themselves they're alarming. Because in those reports it tells us that 75% of primary school children feel comfortable in their own skin, with 85% of primary school children believing absolutely every word the teacher tells them. That's why it's important we get this information correct, because what comes out of that teacher's mouth is law to the children. And then that brings me to the end of the first half, guys. That was RSE and CSE as it is in the UK. The second half of the presentation, we're going to be discussing where this has come from and we're also going to be discussing my concerns here. We've been told these are paedophile conspiracies by the government, but they're not. It's paedophile policies, and I'm going to show you how they are paedophile policies. Because to protect your children from perpetrators of abuse, you must be able to think or understand them. Unless you know, think, understand, know the things they say, the excuses they make, how can you possibly properly safeguard a child? You cannot. And that's the road we're going to be taking you down next. So for the first 15 minutes of the second half, if you have been triggered or you are victims or survivors of abuse, please stay out for the first 15 minutes, because you are going to be experiencing, you're going to be witnessing a child engaging in these activities. Okay guys, so thank you all for watching the first half. We all like to go and have a drink or whatever, and see you another time.
So we will have a second half going now.